What's going on, everybody? This is Childish. We're back at it again with the next Destiny 6 video. Today we're going to be introducing something new to the channel. It's going to be a educational slash theory crafting series where we're going to be calling it a closer look. Basically what we're going to be doing, no pun intended, right, is taking a closer look at some of the non-meta monsters, some of those 4 stars and even some of those 3-star monsters that possibly could be shining when it comes to, the late to end game PVE and PvP content. We're going to kind of break down the #1 unit with regards to that category, find out what makes it so good, and see if we can take a look at a couple of units that kind of fit that, category of that particular monster, and see if he can be viable or he or she could be viable when it comes to the current meta here. So in this video, we're going to be talking about double breakers essentially. And basically when I say double breakers, it's a particular unit that has 2 breaking skills. Okay. First one that obviously we get to talk about here is Paper Cur. Paper Cur is obviously the top dog when it comes to the breaking ability. If you guys have heard about him, or even if you've seen a couple of different YouTubers and streamers out there showcasing them, there is no composition that does not contain Paper Cur because he simply is that good. Why is he that good? It's basically going to be answered in some of these questions that we're going to be providing for you today. And this is how we're going to break down the different, natural 4-star heroes that we're going to look at. So things that we need to be considered, what makes a breaker so good? First and foremost, how many breakpoints can he clear? Okay, he has 2 breaking skills, right? But how many times can they go? Are they just a simple break skill that you can use and then it has a respective cooldown? Or does it have a stacking type skill mechanic where it can essentially charge up and you can cast it multiple times, allowing you to break, multiple times with regards to how many it is? Some of those are just going to have, 1 breakpoint, but some of those may have upwards of 2, right? That's going to be one big thing that we're going to take a look at. Next one up is going to be the status activation of these heroes. When we're looking at these monsters, right? With respect to the actual skill in and of itself, right? We know that it's going to do the breakpoints, but we're going to take a look at those, the percentage chance of what it can take to stun them, to knock them back, to charge them, to knock them down, right? What is the percentage chance for that to happen, right? Obviously, we want to be able to have those breakpoints, but when it comes to the crowd controlling effect of knocking somebody down for 3 to 5 seconds, we want a reliable skill that can get the job done here. So that's going to be a big thing, okay? Next one that kind of goes in line with regards to that is going to be multi-hitting. Are they a multi-hitting ability? How is that going to play a role, right? Well, what we're going to take a look at is some of these skills, they're going to have a relatively low percent chance, and they're going to have a relatively high percent chance. So what we're going to realize is that the percentage chance more often than not directly correlates to how many multi-hits it has. We're so quick to disengage and not look at a particular unit because their percentage chance of landing a skill is relatively low. But ultimately, if you go into the codex and take a look at it, so showcase the skills or whatnot, you'll be able to see how many chances or how many times it'll land. So when we think about a unit that has a 15% chance to stun versus a 50% chance to stun, if that particular skill can land for 4 times or has a chance to land 4 times, you can imagine what kind of reliability can be introduced if we get the status activation up or if we level up that skill. So a lot of things to consider when it comes to status activation and multi-hitting here. Next one up is going to be the range. When it comes to these breaking abilities, is it going to be a single target ability? Or is it going to be an AoE ability? That's going to play a crucial role in, for some of you guys that are using double breakers in your PvE progression. If you guys already haven't seen in various videos out there, the nightmare stages and even some of the hell stages, but more so the nightmare stages, are extremely challenging. And if you make a mistake in one spot or the other, that could be basically the end of the match. You'll have to go ahead and reset it and do it all over. With respect to some of the different mechanics that you can bring in your nightmare team, a lot of the people that have been showcasing videos are really focused on some of the super OP, monsters. I mean, even including me, right? The last one I did, I talked to you guys, I was completely honest with you. I said, hey, I'm literally just tuning it. Like the unit is so broken that I'm able to clear content without too much effort. But if you don't have, the best monsters here, what can you do to crowd control all of those, units and those just essentially those ads that are coming into play so that you can, control them, take them down, and kind of work your way through the content. Me personally, I feel like some of these breakers are definitely going to be something that people can use, right? With respect to their skills, next up is going to be what kind of damage scaling do they got on there? Are they defense scaling? Are they HP based scaling? Are they attack scaling? This is something that I really am a big fan of, especially for the defense scaling monsters. Defense is definitely one of the most underrated, substats or stats in and of itself. The defense scaling in this game is actually really, really important. So if you have the opportunity to incorporate a double breaker or a breaker or basically units that are defense scaling, that's going to provide a lot more mitigation for you, especially in the harder stages of this particular game, right? The hell modes, the nightmare modes, or whatnot here. And then with respect to that, are both of the skills, defense scaling, or is one HP scaling versus attack? That's going to make it a little bit harder to have the consistent damage, because generally we build our heroes with respect to one particular stat, right? We're going to do them all defense or all HP or all attack or whatever the case may be. So me personally, I kind of lean toward the defense scaling ones, but at the end of the day, it kind of just depends on, what their whole kit, has, and hopefully, with regards to that kit, how it can be useful for you at the stage of the game you're currently at, okay? Last but not least, one of the things that we'll look at is the inability effects of those particular heroes. So, with regards to the actual knockback mechanic or the stun mechanic or whatnot, what additional inability effects do they bring that will allow you to clear certain particular, content, right? And one of the things that we'll get into, obviously, Paper Crew is a great example. He's a great example because he's the #1 guy, right? He is the person that is bringing that stun mechanic as well as the bleeding, the inability effect for bleeding, and bleeding by far is the #1 inability effect that you're always going to incorporate with respect to giants compositions and conquest compositions. Can you burst a particular giant down with regards to regular DPS comp? Sure, you could definitely do it, but it will take some time. If you're creating some kind of composition that revolves around the harmful effects or the dot mechanic kind of effects, you're never going to go alone. You're never going to make a composition outside of having the bleed mechanic here. So what we're going to do now is we're going to hop on over to the codex, and we're going to go ahead and bust out Paper Cur, take a look at what he's bringing to the mix. And then, with respect to kind of what we talked about, those previous topics here, and we're going to go ahead and break it down and then take a look at 5 different natural 4-stars and give a little shout out to one natural 3-star that fits in this double breaker category, and try to figure out at the end of the video which one do we feel is going to be the best one for, ourselves, right? Okay. So first and foremost, when you're ever taking a look at these, units and whatnot, make sure that you're looking at the Awakened version. Making sure that you get them all 6-starred so that you can kind of get an idea of what their base stats are. I think that's just really important to kind of look at it. Generally speaking, we look at certain heroes and we don't realize what kind of stats they're going to bring to us endgame. So, take the time to take a look at it and see where you're at here. So, this is going to be, if I remember correctly, it's going to be an HP scaling unit here, Paper Cur. So, the first skill, Salmon Hunt. Salmon, however you guys want to pronounce it. This is obviously one of the crucial skills when it comes to this one here. This is why he is super good. He has an ability that's going to be able to stun with a relatively high chance and provide that bleeding effect here. In addition to that, his AoE damage is going to scale off of HP, and you take note here that his attack range is a circular one. So, regardless if we're focused on the Giants or Conquest, boss, or if we're focused on PvP, the range of this particular skill or regular PvE content, having the AoE ability is obviously really, really nice. You can take advantage by crowd controlling a lot of the monsters here. Now, take a look. We're always gonna take a look at the skilling it up all the way so we can kind of get an idea of what's going on here. Obviously, as we increase, the damage will increase, the cooldowns will reduce, but we're really, really looking at the status activation and the bleeding here. I think, the kind of hit on the mark here is going to be level 4. 40% chance to stun for 3 seconds and then bleed for 9 seconds. So that is obviously a really, really good number. And generally speaking, when we're looking at heroes that bring in a 40% or higher chance, for the most part, it's going to be they're going to be hitting for one time. But the cool thing about this unit is that he actually has an opportunity to hit twice on the skill, meaning that's going to be multiple chances, right, to have a double bleeding effect on your enemy here. So having a 40% chance to provide, hitting twice to have two bleeding effects. Combine that with a status activator, or combine that with status activation, crests or substats from your orbs. I mean, you can realize how reliable this skill can be if you get a lot of mechanics in there that will allow you to essentially get him closer to the 100% mark. Okay, so that's a really big thing here. This is just a regular breaking skill, no stacking ability on this one. Okay, next one up here we have skill number 2. This is going to be a single target stunning ability. Again, a double stun that's going to be providing a buff removal for this particular skill. The damage is going to obviously go up. The reduction on this one is really nice here. The cooldown is relatively low. And as you take note here, when you go from level 3 to level 4, this goes to a 2 breaking point skill. So why is that important? Because with respect to a lot of the skills that we're going to take a look at, this particular skill is a stack type skill, and this is very important to take a look at. All of the heroes that we're going to be taking a look at, some of them have a stack type skill, and with respect to that, generally it's going to have 2 stacks where it will essentially accumulate over time, and then you can use those repetitively if you want in order to do whatever you're trying to do. Do you want to stun the monster, or do you want to bring down the breakpoints of the monster? You could do that. Kerr, if I recall correctly, is the only double breaker that has a triple stack breaking ability. I think he's really the only double breaker or single breaker for that matter that has a triple stack ability. So when we think about this going up to level 4, it's a 2 breakpoint that has 3 stacks. That's 6 breakpoints that you can use on this skill, which is obviously super OP, right? It is single target, so you can't take advantage of it. It'd be outrageously broken if this was AoE. But when we think about the, again, the giants, most importantly, the conquest, or even the descendant dungeons with the high break points, having a unit just alone with one skill being able to take off 6 break points is just amazing. And let's not forget the fact that we can remove buffs here. So if we're playing around in PvP format, we can remove some of the buffs that everybody's going to be bringing. And obviously a lot of people are very reliant on certain buffs and whatnot, not shields. I said buffs here. Okay, so keep that in mind. So with respect to this skill, having this particular one providing the bleed effect plus a 2 breakpoint combined with 6 breakpoints here on the bear hook here when it's maxed out to the level 4, you have 8 breakpoints that you can essentially take in one swipe when you use these skills. Again, he is super tanky, he's super reliable, and his second skill ability is a relatively high one. So combine that again, like I said before, with the high status activation, whatnot, he's going to do some numbers here. He's one of the few monsters that actually has a relatively low strike point, but generally speaking, you're not going to use him in the strike point position because he's just too OP not to use him in your regular team here. Okay, so a lot of things to consider there, and now we're going to take a look at some of the other ones that really kind of shine as well here. So now, I think for the Silva's Council, we're going to go ahead and look at, I think it's Paper Hugo here. So first one that we're going to look at is the Paper Hugo. Again, we're looking at the Awakened one here, so we can bring up the stats and kind of see where we're at. So with respect to the HP, it's obviously a little bit lower than the Paper Curb, but you know what? That's not too bad considering it's a natural 4-star versus a natural 5-star. That's kind of where we would think the stats would be. Okay, first skill. This one's called Cracker, right? This one's going to provide a single target ability that's going to do damage based on max HP. This is an HP scaling unit, right? And it says there is an ability that if it is disabled, you're going to get a little bit more damage out of it here. Now, just by itself, first time around, 40% chance to stun for 4 seconds here, which honestly, that is pretty good. That is pretty good in general. And then of course, like I said before, he's going to have the stacking ability here that's going to be really nice. So you're going to have 2 different counters that we're going to take a look at here, and this is going to allow you to essentially do this skill twice. Now, one thing that I want to point out with regards to this one, which I think makes him shine quite a bit, is that one skill up essentially brings this up from a level 1 to level 2. If you take note here, one skill up will bring up the breakpoint from 1 to 2. Okay, so what that means is that you have a 2 breakpoint skill times 2 because of the fact that it is a stackable ability. You're going to be able to knock out 4 breakpoints from this skill alone. So if you are on one of those hard PVE boss stages, or again like the giants or whatnot here, you're struggling to get it done and get those breakpoints in, you're going to be able to conquer or be able to take down 4 breakpoints from this skill alone, which is pretty pretty good. And then of course, combine that with the high percentage, chance of stunning. And if you're lucky enough to already use a skill that it has disabled it, you can get a little bit more damage out of it. I mean, obviously it's really strong. Level 4 skill, taking it up to a 50% chance. That's a really, really reliable percentage that you want to be in when you combine it with status activators or just stack activation crests or orbs with status activation subsets here. So really, really nice indeed. Second skill, this is going to be a regular one, but take note that, this one's obviously a single target. This one is an AoE based one. And this one here has a 10% chance to knock down for 3 seconds. Again, this has an interesting type of DPS mechanic. Both of the skills say it's going to do a certain amount of AoE damage, but if it's disabled already, if somebody has already broken it, you're going to get a little bit more value out of it here. So again, this one here is going to go up just a little bit when it comes to the downtime on the knockback ability from 3 seconds to 4 seconds when we increase it to level 3. But take note that this will go up to a 4 or to a 2 breakpoint when you go up to the level 4, which of course means that between his first skill and second skill alone, you're going to have 6 breakpoints that you can knock out when you get this one at a particular skill level, whatnot. And so the cool thing about this is being a natural 4-star, there's certain, you can open second dungeons up. Obviously, you're going to have a better chance at pulling it. So skill ups for this particular one is obviously going to be very, very important. But the emphasis on the first skill, for the first skill up is definitely going to be, if you get a skill up here, you want to put into that first skill so you can get that breakpoint improvement from 1 to 2, giving you that stackable ability to give you 4 breakpoints all day here. So really, really unique monster here. I really like the Paper Hugo. Again, for the simple fact that you got 6 essentially breakpoints that you can knock out with just 1 unit. Okay. Next one up is going to be Paper Orcus here, and this is also one that I'm a big fan of, simply for the fact that he is a defense scaling one, and I'm a big fan of defense scaling monsters in the later stages of the game here. So this one here is also going to have a 2 stacking. This is going to be a 2 stacker here on this skill. This one is going to be, if you bring it up to max here, you're going to notice that we do not have any improvement on the breaking points, right? But the damage is going to be coming in a line. It's not a super narrow line, but it's relatively narrow. So you have to be very, very accurate when it comes to your movement and, lining up the monster so you can take advantage of this. But everything that this skill is bringing into the mix here is really, really nice. And if you take note here, when we get it up to the level 4, we get an improvement. First and foremost here, it's a defense scaling monster that has the ability to ignore defense. You guys already know the strength of the Rock June, the Paper Fran. So when we talk about defense scaling monsters, the mitigation that it brings, plus the extra damage that's going to employ, this is obviously going to help out, with the crowd control. The crowd control is going to be there, but the damage to, bring on, with regards to your composition is really, really going to help out here. So I'm a big fan of this one because of the 2 inability effects, the stun mechanic and the shock mechanic here. Again, the shock is going to be like an interrupting skill that's not going to allow you to do, those auto attacks is going to be continuously interrupting your target for the amount of time that it has set. This one's going to be 9 seconds. And this one, again, is a 13% chance to stun, which doesn't seem too high. But his particular skill hits 3 times. So if you have it in line and you are, you have a chance to line it up and do well, you can have 3 chances to, land this particular skill. And even though the reliability is going to be a little off because, again, it's relatively low in chance, the fact that you do have multiple chances to do it, that you're still going to be doing a good damage here because it's ignore defense. I think it's going to be a really good unit here. Okay. So second one, this one's going to be an AoE one. Again, take note that this is another ignore defense type of skill. And flat out, the 50% chance to launch is really, really good. Just kind of starting out here. It's a 2 breakpoint skill, but this is not a stackable skill, which is kind of understood. Damage overall, I think it's not overwhelming. Anywhere in that 400 to 600% range for breakers, I think it's going to be relatively average here. But as you see the improvement here, the big one here from level 2 to level 3, getting that 60% targets defense. But again, when we're thinking about the breakers, I think the biggest thing to consider is the breakpoint ability of these guys all day. And then the, like I said, the percentage chance of landing it more so than the damage in and of itself. So the damage is nice if you're looking to, incorporate it in here, but the breaking point is going to be the biggest thing, right? So when we max this out, take note that the percentage chance to activate this does not change at all. We're just going to get an improvement on damage and a reduction of our cooldowns. So when you think about this skill coming out of the gate, or this unit coming out of the gate, having a 50% chance right away is obviously really, really good. And so you could take advantage of that high chance in combination with this stunning and shocking ability. I think it's going to be really, really nice. Okay, so this is up there. As far as Paper Hugo and Paper Orcus, I kind of lean towards the Paper Orcus because I just like the defense scaling ignore defense to provide the mitigation and the damage. But Paper Hugo having a 6 breakpoint ability for late the game, I think is really, really nice. So really, really nice. Next one up here, this is actually another one that I'm a really big fan of. I think he's in the Medina category here. This is Scissor Gilbert here. Now, if you guys had an opportunity to check out the Great Arena, a while back, they had the 4-star Great Arena, and this was definitely one that you guys saw quite a bit in there. And so we're gonna go over that as well. So first skill, we have just a regular breaking ability, Judgment, and then we have an amplification skill. So just flat out from just looking at it right now, there is no stacking ability. So we know that we're not going to have super high numbers as far as breakpoints go. But we'll still take a look at it. The percentage chance to knock this down is really, really nice. But the biggest thing about Judgment here is going from level 1 to level 2. This is just out of this world here. 100% chance to remove the target's shield. And take note that it is a AoE attack, so that is obviously a really, really good thing. When it comes to the PvP mechanic here, we're going to be able to remove the target's shield when it comes to damage reflection shields or invulnerability shields, damage absorption shields, status shields. They're all really strong, and to be able to have a 100% chance to remove it just with one skill up is pretty OP. This reminds me of my Rock Fran, who, if you skill up her first skill from 1 to level 2, same thing, you're going to be able to, have a 100% chance to remove the buff. So really, really nice. Really, really nice. Now, moving up to level 3 brings it up to a 2 breakpoint. So that's going to be very good if you're looking for a monster that can do that ability, but also provide the breakpoints for the PvE content here. When you bring it up just a little bit more, it's just going to be a reduction as well as a improvement on the DPS. So ultimately, getting this one, I think, to level 3 is going to be the biggest thing to kind of, consider. It does have a little bit of extra damage that can be employed if the target is disabled. So if you combine it with your second skill and you're able to, break it down with regards to his, if you're able to disable it, you're going to get a lot more damage out of it. But again, this, I think, one kind of relies on more, it's more of that utility aspect. So that's what I'm pretty happy about here. So now, the second one here, single target damage. Again, this one is going to be also based on defense here. And once again, if it is disabled, you're going to be able to ignore defense. Take note that the chances to improve the launch on this one, it doesn't have anything to do with it. It's just going to reduce the cooldown times on this. It's just going to improve the damage on it. But again, the 45% chance is not too bad. But let's take a quick second here to take a look, because like I said before, some of these units here are going to be able to provide a little bit of multi-hits here. So this first one, when you knock it down, obviously, as you can see, it's going to be one particular hit. Whereas this one here, once again, it's going to be a single hit here. So this is going to be something it's going to be a staple for the majority of the heroes that we look at Net 4. If it already has a relatively high starting activation, chances are it's going to be a single hit. But there are some heroes out there that do have a relatively decent amount that have, multi-hitting effects here. So but yeah, overall, not too shabby, not too shabby. Most of these heroes have leader skills catered to their typical faction, which generally speaking is great. But most of the time, you're creating a synergistic comp that's not really looking at the faction per se, but just more so the types of abilities that it brings in order to synergize well for your party here. Striking ability, 3 breakpoints is nice, 100% buff removal is nice, and a really, really high chance to knock down for 4 seconds. So with respect to all the breakers that we're taking a look at today, I think this one's probably going to have one of the better striking abilities, simply for the fact that it has the buff removal shield, and the chances of it knocking down is going to be really, really good. So if I recall correctly, if you incorporate it in your comp and you use it, let's say versus like a Paper Adonis has a shield up, and your striking point is he's going to remove the target shield and then knock him down. Like, I feel like it's a 1 and a 2 punch here. So it works really, really nice if you're having a hard time countering Paper Adonis comps. Okay. or paper CR comes with a damage reflection. So again, don't quote me on that. I've just seen a little bit of it here, and I'm pretty sure that's how it works. But if you guys are super OP, as stated before in previous videos, please feel free to put your insight in the comment section down below so we can get the most updated information. But from what I understand, that's how it works, okay? Next one up here, let's go ahead and take a look at, I think we're still in the same category here. This is going to be paper con. Look, I tell you what, man, there's so many different paper units in this category of double breakers here. Again, paper con, not too bad with respect to some of the other heroes that we looked at here. He's going to be a little bit lower on the base HP. I think the base defense is a little improved, but he is an HP scaling unit here. So let's take a look at 35% chance to launch. And if I recall correctly, again, this is another one that we want to take note. This one here, the first skill, Doomhammer. Important to get that first skill up to level 2 so that we can have that break and point ability. Again, it is AoE, and so having a high chance of landing that launch is going to be nice. And then, of course, the breaking point is going to help out when we're trying to clear those breakpoints of those high-end heroes here, high-end bosses, right? So this, in this situation here, though, the damage in and of itself, this is interesting, a different mechanic here. It's based off of, you provide extra damage, but it's based off of where your team's current HP is at. So with respect to damage, this is not something that we're going to consider because we can't really control where our current HP is. We're going to be fighting, we're going to be trying to do some good damage, but we're not like sitting there waiting for our current HP to get to 30% less, or with respect to when it's maxed out, 50% less, so that we can provide a little bit more damage. He's there for utility and nothing more. And then, of course, one of the things that I also noticed was he is, his second ability is a stacking ability, right? And if you notice here, this one doesn't improve with regards to breakpoints, and it is scaled off of attack here. So even though we have the double breaking ability where we can knock out those breakpoints, if you are trying to get a little bit more DPS out of it, while this particular damage here is really, really nice, it's still not, it's the fact that it goes back forth from HP scaling to attack based scaling. I don't really like that. I wish they were both, HP or attack based scaling. Now, considering that this skill is a stacking ability, right, and this is a 2 stacking ability, if I recall correctly, we'll double check here. It is, so it's a 2 stacking ability here, simply for the fact that the damage, once it's scaled out, it's going to be at current 50% HP. The damage is really, really good for a stacking ability here. So, I mean, you're going to get a lot of damage out of this if you do go the attack scaling route. But again, like I said before, just the fact that it's not, it is not, what's it called? Yeah, it goes both ways with regards to attack scaling and HP scaling. I don't really like that concept. And with respect to all breakers, the reason why we're bringing it in our composition is because we're looking for that aspect of, utility, right? That's what we're looking for here. So with respect to the leader skill here, again, another faction-based leader skill. We do have a relatively low skill, but the chances, this damage improvement here, I mean, it's nice. Single target attack is really nice here. And the percentage chance to launch is good, but I feel like with respect to PVE content, I think there's a couple of other units out there in the strike position that have higher breakpoints with relatively the same amount of strike points and can provide you a little bit more utility, unless you're trying to get a little bit more damage out of it. Like I don't feel like it's going to fit the bill, but again, I know I'm getting ahead of myself. It's a lot of speculation. Simply put, I'm looking at what the main skills do and kind of comparing it to the top dog there, which is Paper Curse. So if you have played around with any of these units in the striking ability, you find them better often that to do well, then let me know. I mean, like I said before, I think Scissor Gilbert, if you were to recommend one, he has a shield removal ability in that striking position in the first skill. So I think it's going to do, I think it's going to be, one of the better choices if you were to play around with it. Now, as far as the natural 4-star go, this is going to be the last one we're going to take a look at today. This one here is I'm actually a big fan of this one here. So let's go ahead and take a look at this one. Maxed it out. This one I believe is a defense scaling one. Oh no, this is HP one. But if you take note here, the defense on this one, even though it has a max scaling here, the defense is pretty good considering the fact that its 2 skills are max scaling here. So the effective HP is going to be really, really good on this unit. Really, really nice monster here. So this ability, Frost Storm, we're going to have a small chance to decrease the target's crit rate by 30% and then a vacuum for 4 seconds. Now, this is kind of the one that I'm really happy to show because this kind of goes in line with one of the topics that we hit up earlier was with regards to the multi-hitting effect. If the percentage chance to activate this knockback or vacuum ability is good, if it's low, can it go ahead and does it have a multi-hitting ability that kind of makes up for the lack of percentage, right? So moving this up here, one thing to take note is from level 1 to level 2, again, similar to 2 out of the 5 monsters that we've looked at, you have a way of bringing it up to 2 breakpoints, so that's going to help out here as well. But if you want to take a look at, we'll take a look at the skill. If I recall correctly, this one hits 5 times. So, I mean, even though it is a relatively low chance, once we get it improved with our level it up, once we get our static activation substats in play, bringing it all the way up, notice that the percentage chance is still relatively low, but again, there's a lot of different mechanics that we can incorporate in the composition, but more so on ourselves with respect to those orbs and those crests, looking for those substats. I think you can easily get yourself upwards of the 25 to 30% range just before even status activation comes into play. And with respect to that, like I said, the orbs, the crests, the titles, we forget about the titles too. So I mean, if you have 5 chances to land, at the end of the day, you can get it up. If you can get it up to 25-30% chance, that's a relatively reliable skill. But that's just me. That's just my opinion here. Next one up here, I am a big fan of. This one here is of an AoE one. This is a little bit different though. We're gonna have that disabling mechanic where it does a certain amount of damage on the HP, but if if the target is disabled, like if you use this first skill to disable it, get lucky, and then this one, you're going to get a little bit more damage out of it. This one is one of the only ones in that category that we looked at that has a chilling type of effect here. Chill the target for 8 seconds and knock them back for 3 seconds here. So even after the knockback is done, they get up and they're still going to be slowed, and the attack speed is going to be good. And any way to mitigate the amount of damage that you do is obviously a really good thing. So with respect to the movement speed, that's not a super huge thing unless all of them are melee-based ones that you can move around. But the attack speed is pretty important. And so let's take a look at it here. And again, this is one of the biggest things I like about the skill. The first skill up here, Frost Strike, goes from a 40% to a 70% movement and attack speed increase here. Super, super nice on this one here. So a little bit of damage improvement on the level 3 to level 4, or sorry, level 2 to level 3. Level 3 to level 4, I think I'm missing it here. I can't see the change. But yeah, for whatever reason, I thought there was a change on here, but I can't see. Oh, okay, 50% chance to chill. Sorry, I couldn't see it there. So 50% chance to chill, really, really good. You definitely want to get it up to level 4 if you can. And then the last one here is reducing the cooldown time here. So extremely nice mechanic here. Even though you can't, the knockback effect is going to be relatively low. Having that additional, ooh, I'm sorry, I didn't even notice there on the 8 seconds to 12 seconds here. Where did it go up to 12? So from level 1 to level 2, this is, again, so I don't know how I missed it here. I obviously looked at these monsters early on, but this is huge. The 40% chance to go to 12 seconds for the chill, and then in that particular time, the 70% attack speed reduction in the movement speed is super OP. I mean, in my humble opinion, it's super OP. So with respect to PVE content, even though we don't have any stacking abilities, and I think it's probably a good thing to have if you don't have some stacking abilities, I think this one would make it a top candidate for non-nat 5 double breakers here. That being said, multi-hitting effect to land this vacuum, and then the high chance of landing this chill and this reduction here. It's really, really nice indeed. So this one here is obviously going to be one of the more exciting ones that I'm happy about with respect to the leader skills, because most of the ones that we're looking at has a faction-based leader skill, whereas this one's going to be a straight defense improvement. And like I said before, the defensive scaling is really, really nice. So if you could take advantage of that, it's going to be good. It's going to be good here. Striker ability, I'm not really too excited about it. It is Frost Storm, so it's going to have a higher chance to land, or more multi-hits to do it here. And it can do some pretty good damage if you root it up right here. But again, that is just kind of how I take a look at. I feel like unless you really need the breaking points, the additional breaking points, I feel like what he brings with regards to skill 1 and skill 2 is going to be a little bit better to have him in your composition more so than not. But again, that's just me. speculating based on what I see. Some of these heroes I have played around just for fun in the regular hard and hell stages, but I haven't tested it in the late to end stages of the game here. But the goal of this video, as I stated 50,000 times, is we're taking a look at essentially the non-meta monsters and taking a look at the mechanics of those monsters and see if they can be viable with respect to what we currently see here. So last but not least, we're done with the Nat Forest ones. We're going to take a look. I think it's Jin or Medina, but we're going to take a look at the National 3-star one that I want to give a shout out to, Miss Elizabeth here. So I think there is maybe one or two out there, but I think she's one of the only ones here in the 3-star category that is a double breaker. There is a 2-star one. I think it's Vizark, Rock Vizarker. That's a double breaker. But, you know, with respect to the 3-star versus the 4-star, the overall stats, you know, and whatnot, it's quite a difference here. And you're going to see this right now if you take a look at it here. Obviously, a little bit less HP, less stats across the board. But attack is not too bad considering like some of the natural 4 counterparts here. Okay, so this is an interesting hero here. We have an ability that's going to allow us to do that knockback effect and then provide the burn. And this is going to be one of the few units out there, if I recall correctly, if not the only unit out there, that has a double burning mechanic in his skill, in her skill. So this one here, take note that both of them are you know, not stackable abilities. So we're looking at, I think we're looking at just 4 breakpoints. No, we're looking at 3 breakpoints because this one doesn't go up. This one does go up at that level 4 mark here to the 2 breakpoint. Both of the skills are relatively high in the percentage chance, so we already kind of know that. I've already taken a look at it, obviously, but both of these have, you know, just land once. There's no multi-hitting effect here. But the fact of the matter is that when we think about later stages of the game, Conquest, Guild, sorry, not Guild, but the Giants, you know, burning skills, that dotting effect is really nice. And so this is something that we can take advantage of. The burning effect is initially at 7 seconds here, but you know, when you move it up to the 3rd mark, this is something to pay attention to. It goes up to a 12-second improvement. Now, with regards to this skill as well, we're going to have a higher chance to, you know, knock it back here. And then once we get up to the flame cannon, once again, it's going to go up to a 12% chance. Now, if I recall correctly, burn, even though this unit is based on max HP on both skills, burning effects are based on the target's current attack power. So it's kind of interesting, you know, how this one is kind of worked out here. But again, double break, double burn with respectable attack, considering it is a 3-star monster, you know, could be something that people can play around with. But I think that this one's going to gotta be thrown on the side because with respect to the free-to-play monsters, which you guys already know, I don't even need to hit you up about this here. When it comes to burning type of effect, you know, heroes out there, you know, we'll just drop this real quick. I mean, everybody knows about this one, but the Rock Ignis is going to be one of the top units out there, free to play, to go ahead and incorporate in your team. So even though that it would be nice to have the double break with the burn, you only could have so many like triggers on a particular, you know, hero or enemy, so to speak here. So I don't know, what did I just do here? Apparently I clicked on the wrong one, but or maybe I did the arrow here. Yeah, so with respect to this one here, having already the burning type of effect, we already know that with respect to this skill, we want to, if we only can have a limited amount of burns, you know, stacks on the particular unit, obviously with respect to him having the burning effect and then having the ability to improve the damage, the debuff duration, this is going to be our top dog when it comes to our compositions and using him with respect to the burn. But it's something to take note, right, with regards to Elizabeth here, double break, double burn. If you don't have, you know, your Rock's, you know, Ignis, you know, skilled up, and maybe you have a ton of Elizabeths here skilled up, then you could take advantage of that. But ultimately, you know, we're looking at those Nat 4 counterparts here and seeing what they can provide for you guys. As far as the, you know, the top 5 or the list of the top 5, we have Paper Orcus, Scissor, you know, Gilbert, Paper Hugo, Paper Khan, and Paper Kruger. This one was a hard one for me, but with respect to the PvP side, I probably would have picked Scissor Gilbert. I think that's my kind of go-to one, just because of the 100% shield removal on the first skill and the striking ability. If you play around with it, again, you know, being able to remove the buffs or remove the shield and then knock back or knock down with a high percentage chance is really nice. PVE wise, I think I have to hand it to. It's hard because I'm going back and forth with Paper Orcus and Paper Hugo, but I think that Paper Hugo gets the top dog here because he has upwards of 6 breakpoints on his skill, whereas Paper Orcus, the stun to shotgun ability, I think it's really nice for PvP, and it could do really well. I guess you could say this with respect to those two ones. I think Paper Orcus is going to be. I think he's going to shine a little bit more in PvP. But then the Paper Hugo is going to be more so on PvE because of the high breakpoints, and we could take advantage of that. Whereas PvP, we're not really concerned about the breakpoints here. So that is pretty much it, guys. I tell you what, I do not know where the timer is on it, but I would guess this is like a 30 to 45 minute video. I ain't gonna lie right now. With respect to longer Destiny 6 videos, I'm really not a big fan of it. I don't want you guys to fall asleep halfway through the video, but you know, when I thought about what is currently talked about in Destiny 6, what is currently provided, the fact of the matter that this game provides us so many different Nat 5s. We're all looking at the top Nat 4s and Nat 5 units, and we're all taking advantage of the abilities that it's bringing. We basically forget about the other 75% of the heroes out there and realize that some of these heroes actually do well. They shine well. You know, obviously I've kind of stated my opinion here and there with respect to where I'm at in the state of the game and the fact that the world revolves around the natural 5 stars. But if I can create this unique series that we're going to be focusing on, you know, the Nat 3, Nat 4 counterparts that really can help you out so that you guys can realize that if you don't get the premium monster, you don't have to sit there and drop extra money on the 10+1s. That's going to really make me happy at the end of the day, and I hope that it makes you happy because that gives you motivation to build unique monsters here in order to conquer your goals, right? So that's where I'm going to leave it there, and then we're going to open this one up to the community. I want this to be a community-driven series. If you guys like this video, please hit the like button and share it with your family, friends, loved ones, whoever you want to share it with. But the big thing I want you guys to take away today is that I have already a list of different things that I want to talk about with respect to mechanics in the game and what we can take a look at. But if you guys have an idea on what kind of mechanic or what kind of thing you want me to take a look at and basically analyze like I did today, please put it in the comment section down below. And then when you put that in there, for those of you guys that are looking down, you know, in the comment section later on, if there's one topic that you're like, wow, this would be really good to talk about, please make sure to like that comment, okay? So we're going to take a look at the ones that get the most likes, and we're going to provide those with respect to the other videos that I already got, you know, planned out here. So that's going to be it, guys. I hope you guys are still awake. If you did, don't forget to hit that like button, and I will see you guys all in episode 2 of Destiny 6, A Closer Look. Take care.